G'day. It's time to Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello everybody and welcome back to week 2 of our State of the Super Faction coverage for the great denizens of the warp, that being Chaos. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed week 1. This week we're going to be having Thousand Suns, Death Guard, and Chaos of Demons getting covered. And then that'll be wrapping up our coverage there. Then next week or the week after, we start an Imperium State of the Super Faction, which again will probably be 2 weeks because you guys seem to love this format, where I have to do 10 times more work and line up a bunch of different people in different time zones and get up at all times and the days and the nights and stuff.
Quick editor's note, but I feel like I'm also a bit to blame for this, but I do love the segment format, so let's keep it going, Adam.
But here we are with Thousand Suns. I am joined by the beautiful, wonderful Noah Noondorfer, currently ranked, I believe, if I'm correct, number 2 or number 3 in the world in T-Suns in the ITC. So hello, mate. Welcome.
Yeah, so somewhere about there. I believe that Terroxer keeps giving me a run for my money, but my big event wins have been holding me strong.
The dude keeps going to team events and does not matter what size team event, the guy absolutely annihilates it. But yeah, interesting. I love that you threw out that name. I love it when people are in the high in the ITC and they've got like their foil and they keep trading back and forth on points. I love that stuff. Those little are a lot of fun.
For sure. Like all the T-Suns communities, there's 2 or 3 of us that keep sort of rotating through the top. I have my guy in the Southeast that I'm a little competitive with in our Southeast tournament circuit that's been going on this year, but always good to know the other really good players around.
Fabulous. And a lot of the time, people in the higher up in the rankings are pretty collaborative with those other, higher up players, which I always find is pretty funny. Like you'll help each other write lists and then hate on each other for doing well with them. I think it's very funny. But once again, we are here to complete our coverage of the Chaos Super Faction post MFM and rules changes, and get the hot takes from experts. If you don't know how and what we do here, please go and listen to last week's show to get the full Chaos Super Faction spread. I'm currently overseas. I'm currently over at I'm either in Florida or in Atlanta right now, so I'm recording this one ahead of time. Should anything wild and crazy change with the WCW FAQs or anything like that. But suffice to say, there will be 2 parts of this podcast, of course. As always, come and join us over on Patreon at Art of War Down Under, and you'll get another part 2 of every single segment that you're about to hear here. There will be a paired segment to go with it, much more shenanigan filled. We sometimes swear, we sometimes say silly things, and most importantly, we answer your questions over on that one. So come over and get that goodness. Noah, is there anything you would like to plug?
No, not right now. I'm not super involved in any particular organizations that would appreciate your stuff. But I guess I will say, if you haven't seen the Thousand Suns Discord, that's one of the places where I hang out and also talk to them, as well as I pop over into the Classic Art of War Discord on and off to talk in the T-Suns chat, among others.
Beautiful. All right, my man, let's jump in and get some goodness. Thousand Suns, post MFM and rules changes, where are they at?
I tend to think that they are still in a good spot. I think that they have taken a lot of hits. I personally will say I don't like the direction that a lot of their fixes have come in, because it just sort of exaggerates the problems of T-Suns, which is the classic: when everything goes right, it goes very right, and when things go wrong, things start to go very wrong. So I think they're definitely in a good spot. I think they're in like a GT and major winning spot still, assuming you don't ever see Triple Exorcist Sisters, but that's besides the point.
I definitely agree. Yeah, it seems like every change that they've ever had is just pushing them more and more onto the knife edge of everything is fine, we are winning comfortably, and oh my sweet merciful Jesus, everything is, my entire army is gone, and why don't I bother rocking up today? It doesn't seem like the changes that they're doing are making list diversity a thing. It's just making you have less of the same thing you're always going to take, which I always find is a bit I mean, the only significant list alteration that they've had this edition has been, mutalisks or not mutalisks. I think is the only real identity I can think of.
Yeah, I do think that there is some play around the edges. I know the list that I personally am more accustomed to tends to be more unorthodox than kind of the classic list that everyone ends up leaning towards. But this is kind of the problem with just list construction and Cabal points. It was this way in 10th. It was this way in 9th.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very much unless you're making the active choice to sack Cabal points, it feels very bad to take a bunch of units. You can't do stuff in Rhinos because then you don't get Cabal points. I mean, people do, but you lose Cabal points for that. You lose Cabal points for not being on the board. It's definitely why when the first set of nerfs for T-Suns were coming out, I was one of the big advocates in all these chats of being like, give us rules nerfs, tone things down, don't just make everything more expensive.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, GW is not bound to my opinion. Shamefully, I'm sure.
I know. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the issue is how tied you are to the mechanics of your army. I mean, without Cabal points, you are just not even spicy Marines. You're just bad Marines. So everything revolves around how to get the most out of these, min-maxing the Cabal points. So you're just locked. You're just on this journey, this train that you can't seem to get off in this toxic relationship with having to have 19 or more Cabal points at all times. Otherwise, your army just don't function so good. Is that safe to say?
That 19 number is very, very spicy. That's obviously, if for people who aren't super on it, that's the good amount where you can do a double move and 2 Doom Bolts. It's kind of like the classic amount. I tend to be okay with running a little less because I view Cabal points as a utility thing a little more than just a raw, I'm going to Doom Bolt twice and then double move. But generally over the 16 mark, if you're below that, you're just making the decision in your list that Cabal points aren't real and can't hurt you.
And they are literally the best.
Would you like to toss 5 mortal wounds anywhere you feel at any time? That's a pretty good army rule.
Would you like to have 6 of the best stratagems in the game that only you can use and only you can only you have the special command points in which to resource, and you only get to use them if you have the right number of dudes in the right delineation? But how do you rate Cabal points as a mechanic? Do you think it is a trap in the fact that you must, like I said, get on that train, or do you think it's time for people to just be I just need more stuff in my army? Too bad, so sad.
I legitimately, we'll talk about lists a little later. I have a buddy who's running something that tends to be a little lower on Cabal points. I don't think you can just be I'm going to sack all the Cabal points and I don't care. I simply don't, because at the end of the day, that's like playing any other army and being yeah, you know what? I don't want Oath of Moment. That's not a real thing. That doesn't...
I'm never going to call the war. Yeah.
It's hey, if you can do that and win games, cool. Good for you if you don't need your army rule. I guess you're playing GSC and you don't roll a 5 up. But that's just not really a way that the game can afford to be played, especially when you're playing at a higher level. If you don't have all your resources, or if the most you can do is 1 double move a turn, don't get me wrong, moving unit twice is a crazy ability, but it's not one that's going to alone win you the game.
All right, so we've got our hot takes where they currently sit. What do they have going for them that is especially good in the meta at the moment? What are they doing that still holds up despite all the changes?
I think a lot of the things that they're doing is kind of just the class of things that they've been doing. They have phenomenal damage output. They have incredible utility. They have a lot of genuinely really good units. A unit, just like an Infernal Master unit with 5 rubrics, still does crazy stuff. Did it get more expensive? Yeah, but it still does the same thing. I will war story briefly. I was at a team event with a buddy who was using my Thousand Suns actually to play, and he was playing someone else I know. And the guy was going how did you just shoot me with 17 pistols? What is going on here? And the amount you can do with these tiny units is incredibly strong. So in terms of raw, if you put an army in front of them, can they pass the damage check? the answer is almost always yes. And that's kind of the biggest thing they have going for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, on the flip side, what do they have going against them now? Like, describe their downsides in the current meta or what they're weak against.
Generally speaking, I think one as a very specific thing that they're bad against is indirect, which is a thing that just exists now. When I was playing my peak Thousand Suns, I had to make the choice in list construction that this list cannot beat like triple guard indirect, triple whirlwind, or anything of the such, and just kind of accept that, which was fine because those things were on the downslide. Now we're seeing certain lists packing indirect, which make your life very bad coming back into the meta. So I think that's one very specific thing they struggle against. At the end of the day, you're playing Magnus in the 20 Tactical Marines with like 2 thick bodies, and that's just not the place you want to be in those types of scenarios. They totally also are just incredibly behind on the stuff game, depending on the list exactly, but most lists end up with like 3 pieces of trash, and it kind of doesn't matter. I'll give you another brief war story. I played World Eaters at a team event. I played into Thousand Suns like 3 times because my team was like, you know how Thousand Suns work. But I played into one, and the guy put like all his trash out for screening and whatever. And I took like 3 units and traded incredibly down to clear out the trash. And I said, okay, it doesn't matter that I just lost like 600 points for 200 points of trash. You now have to put real things out there. And at that point, like the game was way better because T-Suns doesn't have that ability. You're not running endless amounts of trash. And once you lose it, things get very bad.
Yeah, totally agree. And you're pretty much just delineating there that you're pretty much always on the lower. Well, you're always second in the resource war in just the sheer number of utility units and resources you can bring to bear in a game. You're always number 2. You pretty much every other army has more than you. Hell, knights at times have more than you now, especially with like Imperial agents and nonsense chucked in.
Yeah, you put like a subductor squad. Even you put like an armiger on your natural expansion across the board. And I have like one thing that can deal with that from across the board, which is Magnus. If you're running like the Mutalith builds, then you can also toss out that loving double Doom Bolt. But T-Suns does in some areas struggle by not having a phenomenal amount of range. Like Magnus can move super far and go up to 33. Like, can they get to places? Absolutely. It's about where their units have to end up after doing that. And that's a real struggle into some matchups.
Because the greatest way that T-Suns play is by never trading, because they hate getting in a trade war, whereas they just want to take and never give up anything.
Yeah, no, I definitely still conceptualize the army as having kind of a curve where you want to pick off a couple resources, force your opponent to come out, and then when you hit them with everything, you'll lose some stuff in return, but really they won't have enough left to actually win the game. You've kind of gone over the curve of no return, versus every real unit you lose, that curve gets higher and higher. And if you just play basic trading, you're never going to get over it. And then the game starts to go very wrong.
Yeah, totally agree. So outside of indirect, what kind of army archetypes give T-Suns problems, or where are they weak?
Where are they weak? Definitely any army with like a lot of trash, kind of as alluded to. Stuff like even guard, where it feels like they have just like an endless amount of, I put a unit on an objective, do something about it. And eventually you run out of things that can do things about it without being like, fine, you can have 5 rubrics for a unit of 10 cultists. And that's always bad.
Yeah, I was about to say, I actually find just 10 idiots in a Chimera a big problem for Thousand Suns. If I have that ad nauseum, like if I have three of those, T-Suns are like, at some point, I guess you just get primary, son. I can't really stop that one. The third one was too many.
100%. Like T-Suns are seriously, they kind of, not as much as Tau, but they have the activation lock problem where it's funny, like sometimes with my T-Suns, I played into Death Guard. This was like a good couple of months ago. But when you just have 3 rhinos with 2 sets of 5 dudes in them. And I'm like, well, like I can pop the rhinos. It's not a question. But then the guys get out and they can get out on that side of the rhino and they might not be in flamer range. And I can't doom bolt them. And I only have 1 Magnus. And things legitimately start becoming difficult when you have multiple activations. If you give me Canis Rex on an objective, he will no longer exist. If you give me like a rhino with 10 guys on an objective, now you're requiring commitment that I don't really want to give.
Yeah, fair. Totally agree.
As for, I guess, other archetypes, definitely the super strong, like trashless.
Yep.
The armies with 3-inch deep strike tend to, depending on the army, I personally, though this has been contested, don't find Grey Knights as being a huge issue. But anything that kind of has the 3-inch where they can jump down, clear the screens, and then, well, when you don't have a bunch of units to screen with, they're going to just show up and eat rubrics, because again, these are just tactical Marines. And that presents a bit of a problem. It kind of forces you to be like, am I just going whole hog all in right now, or are we just going to kind of play around the edges? And again, T-Suns usually loses the play around the edges game.
All right. If you were going to say LVO tomorrow, taking T-Suns, what would your list look like, do you believe?
Okay, so I will preface this. The way my list will look is not the conventional wisdom on T-Suns, because I play them very differently. I would very likely end up, you have all the standard fixings of Magnus. The lists I've been toying with are 0 Mutaliths, which is kind of what I've traditionally run. It has my big squads of 10 rubrics, so I'm running like 2x10 rubrics, and then 1x5 with an Infernal Master. I have the Crystal, I have Armin in a squad, and then you just load the list up with trash. Which, I think the current list, it's either, I don't know if I might have had to downgrade to Cultist, but traditionally I run like 2x10 Zangors and then 3 units of Chaos Spawn. I think Chaos Spawn are a legitimately incredible unit in T-Suns that every list should run.
I have been saying this since the start of the edition, that just Spawn in general, maybe not in Chaos Space Marines, but in pretty much every other version you can take them, have always been amazingly good value.
Yeah.
Of course, World Eaters were onto it. But yeah, I never saw a catch on in T-Suns. So you're playing heavily with the utility units. Like, so Zangor's possibly downgraded to Cultists, but you still think the Spawn will hold up and you'll be taking those in addition.
Yeah, no, Spawn are incredible. For people that don't know, they're T5, 4 wounds with a 5-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain. Yeah. I think the current list I've been toying with, I don't know if this is the right choice, but I've been playing with it, is with a Foot Demon Prince who gives a stealth aura. If you give those, even without stealth, but if you give that to them, they have the least reliable damage profile in the game. They win every trash fight of a trading unit, usually without losing models. Like, they on average take 0 damage because they heal wounds. They're impossible to have a good profile into. They're just incredibly frustrating. And they make one of the best use of the double move, in my opinion, because they can go 16 inches with a double move, plus an advance, plus some if they are near Magnus at any point. The traditional concern is whether them versus Enlightened. I always highly rank Spawn, because being able to move through walls is such a big deal in a lot of maps that I play on. I play on mostly traditional GW. So that's kind of how I look at it, is they do everything. They're incredibly inconsistent to kill. Like, will they do damage? No, but I don't need them to do damage. I want to walk in them. I want to double move them near the one opening from your home ruin and be like, no, I think you will stay there for a turn. I think you will charge Spawn, or you will stay there.
Yeah, I agree. I freaking love the Spawn. I think they're excellent. If anybody wanted to just take out their Mutaliths and turn those points into Spawn, I think that's not a bad idea. Why do you? So tell us your thinking about the units of 10 rubrics over the units of 5. And it sounds like it's been something you said you've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, so I have been doing this for a long time, and just recently in the MFM, they actually went down in points because GW. That was I think the only unit. Maybe there was one other that went down in points was the unit of 10 rubrics, because GW recognized, hey, these guys don't generate a Cabal point. They're not as good traditionally. which meant that my list only went up like 15 points net because I had stuff go down, which was very weird. But essentially, I like, and this is just like a big play style, I like my trash units to be the most trash possible, and my good units to be the most good possible. That's why I run.
What a shocking statement, mate.
I don't like. I see the value of having like the mid-size, like 5 rubrics with a Final Master. Like they do a lot of stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but they kind of ride that line of they're a good unit, but they're also a trash unit. And I just generally go for that. I want that gulf to be as wide as possible. I want my trash to be garbage and my good things to be good things. Because at the end of the day, I cannot trade away good things in T-Suns when it doesn't matter. So I'd rather have more nonsense that I can trade with. And then when my big units actually come out, they do a bunch of stuff. I also do tend to run, one of the 10-mans has the Crystal with an Exalted guy on foot, which gives them a 4-up invuln. And I tend to use my Crystal very late in the game. I wait till like turn 3 at the earliest, 4, even 5.
Yeah.
And when you teleport, like the joke is obviously they're tactical Marines. They're not super tough. But when you teleport them like turn 4 and both of you have been super attritioned, and then I'm just like, hey, here's 10 tactical Marines with a 4-up invuln. I'm going to have floating save rerolls. I can take it on the sorcerer and blanket damage. That's units actually becomes a pain to get through. So that's kind of, it kind of comes back to I like my real units to be real, and I like my trash to be as garbage as possible.
I love it. I actually really love that take. So if that's what you're taking to a singles event, would you take something similar to a big teams event, like say Challengers Cup or equivalent?
I think for the way that T-Sun, my singles list is very much based on the metric of I need to win by 1 point. If they ask me to run over an opponent, it's not made to do that. For teams, I do think that the popularized version, which has come out after the MFM, which is like the triple Infernal Master with double Mutalith and then like a handful of trash, is probably the correct version for a team's event. Because that's the list that when you get down to it is going to be able to move quickly at your opponent and put out disgusting amounts of damage. I play my list very reactively. That is not a reactive list. That is a murder your opponent list. So I think that version is probably the best for a team's event. But there is also the version that I have a buddy who's still working on. I don't know how he's ended up with his list. He's still figuring it out. That is kind of running more of the WTC last year, where a lot of folks were running like triple Forge Fiend, triple Mutalith. He's very big on all these big bodies. So I don't know exactly how his list has turned out, but that also presents a very unique threat profile that I don't think is bad in teams.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a good call too. All right, fringe builds, mate. What have you got in your app that you hope to one day play?
I mean, with, the everlasting hope is that we get the Zangor detachment, which gives Chaos Cult status of being absolute broken. The only, real fringe thing I've been considering is, of course, the classic Scarab Occult, because I have 20 of them from 9th edition. I love the models. I want to actually update them to how I try to paint my stuff now. But there is something that I was looking at where I chatted with 1 or 2 folks about running them as just little 5-mans being like, these are my very bad Deathwing Knights, and they're going to run around and give me an actual unit that does melee with reasonable shooting that generates some amount of Cabal points. I can't look at you and tell you that I think the list is good, but it stems from my desire to actually have my poor Scarabs back in my list.
Fair. I think that's a interesting meta call, if you pull that lever.
I definitely feel kind of like you talked about earlier that a lot of the T-Suns list with some wiggle room around the edges are kind of solved. So there's not as many fringe builds that I would like to try because, can I give you a fringe list that generates 0 Cabal points? Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's the right meta call.
Congrats on your list without rules. Yay! Enjoy your data sheet abilities. That's all you got. The fringe. So here's the biggest fringe build that you could ever do. It would be not taking Magnus. And there's no freaking way. He's like top 3 best models in the game.
I'm on record saying I'd pay 600 points for Magnus, and I still damn would. He's so good. I don't have like another way to express that. Like I can't write a list that doesn't have Magnus. There's a lot of armies these days that have their centerpiece, but it's not required. T-Sun's, I hate to say it, doesn't have that depth. There's a lot of depth in expressing skill and designing lists, but like if you're looking at Death Guard, I have like 40 units in that army. I can design something without Morty. I don't run lists with Morty, but at the end of the day, it's because I have a bunch of units and all of them are not bad. T-Suns, I have like a handful of units, and half of them are objectively bad because they don't make Cabal points.
Yeah. Agreed. That's actually going to bring us to an end of our first segment, my man. So that is us done over on this part 1. Please come and join us over on part 2. Going to answer some patron questions, going to get some shenanigans going, and also plumb the depths of Noah's big old brainstem. My dude, anything you'd like to say before we check out?
No, I think that just about covers it. Take Spawn. Don't listen to the people who don't take Spawn.
Sorry. Last question.
Oh.
Where do you rate them in the competitive tier list right now? And do you rate them any differently from singles to teams?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that T-Suns probably fall into more of like the upper B tier in teams. I think that in singles, they are like a solid A army. I think you have to play them very well. I think you have to make a list that works the way you want to play them. And at the end of the day, you do have to dodge some bad matchups. Teams, I think the problem is with teams, they still require all of the stuff that I just said. You have to have a very good experienced player who's not going to make mistakes. You have to do a little bit of list pairings babying them if you're trying to get them as one of the armies getting 20s, because you have to give them those matchups where they're going to do very well. And at the end of the day, things might still fall apart, and your T-Suns player walks back and they go like, I got an 8 because I lost a rubric unit that I couldn't have lost. And that's it. So yeah. I actually think they're a little worse in teams just because you have to be very tactful about where you put your T-Suns player.
I agree. I do think they still have one of the highest ceilings in the game, right? They still have one of the highest possible, ability to smash.
Oh,
so wild.
For sure. Like they still have, maybe not the highest, but I think it's probably the highest damage output in the game. They have incredible flexibility, but at the end of the day, it's also very easy to mess up. And we're no longer at that point that I discussed early on where it's, if I make no mistakes, I win. I now also have to be better than the other person because now they get influence in the T-Suns game, which I know, shame of shames, they get to play a game against you, but it's no longer just playing solitaire against your opponent.
All right. On that note, we are actually done. We're actually going to go over and record the second part of this, and hopefully you will join us there. Noah, anything you'd like to say before we check out?
No. Pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, you too, mate. See you in part 2, guys. And we are back with your second segment for this episode 219. I am joined by the number 1 current ranked Chaos Demon player in the ITC in the world. His name is Kevin Leonard, but he prefers to go by Big Lenny, I hear. And I am not giving him that nickname as I do with many other guests. He actually came into the chat, into the recording studio with Big Lenny as his nickname, and that is how he shall be henceforth referred to. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Adam. How are you?
I am fan-freaking-tastic. We're going to talk about one of my... So Demons was the very first army I ever played when I came back to miniature wargaming in, 2014, 2015. So this is a faction I have close to my heart. And I've always been kind of Demon curious. But we're going to sit down here and give them the medical examination post-MFM and rules changes, my dude. But first and foremost, anything you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to tell us about, or anyone you would like to shout out?
Well, my gaming team is 100 Tactics. Love those guys. Those people are amazing. They put on good tournaments. They whenever we travel out, uh, we're just like having being good people. And also a YouTube channel called True Demon Lord. My buddy Franco over in the UK. Love the guy to death. Just met him at LGT for the first time, and it felt like we were lifelong friends. What a good person.
Fantastic. Love that stuff. And yeah, big fan of Tundra Tactics. Always enjoy what you guys do. And the way you guys play the game as well is absolutely exemplary. All right, let's jump into some Demons chat, my dude. Where are they at? Give us your hot takes to post point changes and rules changes.
Probably my hot take. I know people don't rate them super highly, probably like a mid B, high B. But honestly, if you know how to work them, you can definitely be an A tier or contend with some of the S tier armies, even when Bringers of Flame were almost cancer on the meta. But I would say that's my hot take. I think they can definitely rumble with the best of them. And post field manual, I love the change, at least the one where all the greater demons got their own little Bellicor aura. If you're using the same god, and I don't know if I coined the term, but I like to call it the rushing nesting doll. So you just basically plop down all the greater demons to make basically a meat wall, and then bring out the rest of your stuff and just make 5 or 6 inch charges all day.
Yeah, we call them the babushka dolls well, as far as I can tell. And so yeah, you just like kind of babushkaing out. So here's a big knight, it's going to babushka out a smaller knight to babushka out another smaller knight, and so on and so on and so on. And all of a sudden, you're in demon jail from them being in their backfield in their deployment zone to now all upon your deployment line. I do love that analogy. That's really good. So do you think they're in a relatively good place? I agree. I think demons have quite a high ceiling for potential place. I think they do a lot of stuff really well in 10th edition. But man, there are some significant downsides as well in some places where they seem pretty weak and undynamic, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But what are they doing that is good right now? Like, what do they do that is powerful?
If you like Monster Mash, that is one of the armies to go for. Like, just that. I know that I know it's probably mono build, but definitely if you like the Monster Mash playstyle, Demons is the army for you, I feel.
Fantastic. And how do you how do you sit with that, knowing that, essentially a lot of people look at that list like it's just like spicy knights. It's like faux knights.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like it. I like the fact that all greater demons have a 4 Binville base, and they're decently high toughness and high wound count. So, and now, even though they're not OC10, but even being OC5, you can still play on objectives, take it away from people, especially with the 3-inch deep strike. So even if you have what's the smallest base, I believe, is a Keeper's Secrets and Lord of Change, you can just plop those out in there, OC5, and take it away from you. Or if you have Rodigus, plop that guy down, half OC, OC5. It scored me plenty of points in a lot of my games.
Nice. I do also have to say, maybe it wasn't identified when, the Demon Index first came out, but demons probably have the best percentile good enhancements. All the every god specific enhancement. Maybe Soul Stealer is the weakest of them, the Slaneshi one, but the other three are absolute. If you are taking this greater demon, this is an auto take situation, which I don't think anyone else can say that they have 3 auto take enhancements in their books. Maybe Thousand Suns actually.
Probably, but yeah, like Endless Gift, I would have. I'm surprised it didn't go up in points. I would have gladly paid 50 points for that thing on a Grand Clean one.
It comes back into the profile. Who is taking a Great Unclean one without the Endless Gifts? If you are taking one Great Unclean one, if you're taking one Bloodthirster, if you're taking one Lord of Change, you are taking their respective enhancement, right?
100%.
Yeah, 100%. How do you? So, I mean, a lot of vicarious nerfs have happened to demons that demons have not warranted but they're paying the premium for the fact that you can take like Nurglings and other armies. Like Nurglings have been drop punted into the sun and are still very takeable. Do you find those things have had a huge negative impact on your play experience?
Mostly in the beginning, where like when CSM were taking all the demon allies, so the points went up. But I like the change they did when it's like if other people take demon stuff, you must take a battle line and
You got to offset.
include.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to offset it. So I do like that change, not just keep doing points increases and then demons are left in the wind, which was I
Mm,
think was a good thing. And then let's see, there really hasn't been much negatives ever since uh, probably like the points changes for like the other big demons like Shalaxi going up 50 points. Even at 400, I didn't even like the girl to begin with.
mm,
And then
fair.
I think Be'lakor went up, I believe, 25, and then came back down. So
Yeah.
that was good. Yeah, that's really the only like bad thing I can remember. But at least they were offset
Mm. Uh,
or redacted.
yeah. So your hot takes is pretty much that. Do you think they've gotten better or worse from where they were pre MFM?
Pre def well definitely gotten. Oh, so wait, so pre I would say they gotten like in the like when 10th first dropped, they were in a pretty decent place. Like I think Be'lakor was an auto include when Eldar and Knights were running around with
Yeah.
no nerfs whatsoever. But then after that came down, I kind of took him out of my list. And then even when he went up, I was like, okay, I'm fine. I'm taking him out anyway.
Mm.
And then for how I play, I do more of a mono god style build. Like I think I was one of the first people to at least try and use like mono corn, at least in I think like AdeptCon in what April.
Yep.
Yeah, but then yeah, but I think they're well, back to the main point. I would say they're in a good spot even post MFM, especially with all the rare demons getting the 6-inch basically Be'lakor
Yeah.
buff or aura for their god specific.
Were you disappointed not more changes didn't occur? Because I mean, of course, I think Greater Demons are in a relatively good place at the moment. But man, there are so many other data sheets in that book that are just wallowing in untakeability. Mostly the Nurgle stuff, like the blow drones and actually pretty much just the blow drones. Beast of Nurgle taking a single aren't too bad. Plague Bears are starting to feel a lot better. But things like Screamers, the Chariots, and any of the Chariots, be it the Slashy or the Zinchian, and a bunch of other stuff, are just kind of have never been worth taking this edition. Were you disappointed you didn't see more points drops?
Yeah, more points dropped. What I'm really disappointed on is that the lesser demons, like your Plague Bears, Bloodletters, etc., they didn't go to 20 mans like they used to in the past. I
Yeah.
wish they did that.
Mind you, 20 pink horrors with these current rules. Yeah, I'm happy then when it can't do that. But the others, sure, I've got no problem with 20 Plague Bearers. Actually, Demonettes 100% need to go to 20s if they can do anything ever. And yeah, Bloodletters as well. But yeah, 20 pink horrors can go straight into the sun. No, thank you.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, so you think the Greater Demons are the ones where you wanted to see the changes more than anything else?
Yeah, because at least they felt like what was it back in ninth edition? At least the special character ones got the locus, so the
Yeah.
basically the rule for this one. I'm glad that every single one of them got the locus, not just the like the Radagast, Scarbrand, Shalaxi, and Fate Weaver.
Mm.
Yeah, that I kind of figured they would only do that for them, but pleasantly surprised that every single Raider Demon got that, which is nice.
Yeah.
They feel more imposing on the table.
I would have liked it to see the heralds have that aura for, like, if you have a foot herald, the battle line, the lesser demons can have the Be'lakor effect off a herald, and then if you have a mounted herald, then of course your special and your like stuff like crushers can do the Be'lakor thing off of them, and then the greater demons can do everything. I thought that would have been a more good a solution to use the the worst possible English.
Yes, more gooder.
The more gooder. All right, changing and moving over. So what do they have? What do they do that is powerful right now? Like apart from Monster Mash, what are the game mechanics or the playing of the mission that they're potent in?
Well, definitely maneuverability, where since every single one can deep strike, and having the realm of chaos, where you can essentially uppy downy one or two
Mm,
things. Most of the time, you're going to be in the shadow, so I just assume it's going to be two things all the time, and having a 3-inch deep strike. So even though you have to spend CP to bring stuff in the air, it's still a good detachment for scoring points in general. and not having to worry about like, oh, I need to kill stuff to score my points.
Fair. So, what are their downsides? What are they doing that is a bit lackluster or ineffective?
Definitely just the invul saves. Like if you're having a not so hot day and your 4-ups or your 5-ups, you're just gonna evaporate. Especially if you do with a bunch of volume and plus lethal hits. That's the killer for demons because they all have
Hmm.
just terrible armor saves, or roll 4-ups or dead, or you
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, totally agree. What kind of armies are out there that are looking like they're big demon predators? Like you're worried about facing?
Uh, the ones I'm always scared of was pre was it pre MFM or two MFMs ago was CSM when they were unnerfed because they had the
Yep.
lethal crit fives with with obliterators and just a bunch of bullets or even attacks in general in combat. That was a that was frightening for me to face. I would say Monka Tau when because they can come get you real quick and on top of all the
Mm.
lethals.
Yep.
Let's see.
And in the process of doing and coming and getting you really quick. So it actually sounds like you're pretty worried about things that get aggressive on you, that apply pressure to the demons, because really the demons want to have a pretty passive turn 1 or turn 2, just do some staging, do some stuff, and then go from 0 to 100 straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like if you do like a corn build, you want to be the attacker. You never want to be the
Yeah.
defender.
Yeah, fair. So stuff like Thousand Suns, stuff like maybe some Tyrannid builds, a little bit of Necron uppy downy as well, where they can kind of selectively, protect things by redeploying every turn. Did they ever give you any issues?
Yeah, the other I guess the term uppy downy armies like Grey Knights,
Yeah.
Hypercrypt Necrons. Is there more, or is that the only two that matter?
I mean, that's the only two that matter. There's a couple of other armies that do it, but they're not the main builds for their factions.
Okay, yeah, and then probably the one thing that scares me the most is triple Gene Stealer Broodlord Vanguard Tyranids, because if they go
Yeah.
first, you are in jail. You cannot move.
Yes. Yeah. So being put in jail is something they have to be worried about, because then, of course, you got to worry, like, what did I choose to put in reserve? Because now, I might be playing with only half an army and I'm in jail with half my army, and then they've taken up the board. There's no real good deep strike opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and also some world eater builds. Like if they go first on search and destroy deployment, oh here's a unit of 6 8-bound, exalted 8-bound Angron, and maybe a Makata is just running, tie up everything, or even kill the
Mm,
like your defensive stats. Like if you have Angron and even three regular 8-bound, they can kill the 4 Feel No Pain Grand Clean one with just volume of attacks
yeah.
and math in general.
That's so wild, right? I've had people put entire armies over multiple turns into that Grand and Clean one, and he's like taken 6 wounds. And then I've like put a single unit of Deathwing Knights into it and killed it somehow. Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes
that happened to
it
me.
makes no sense. It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. All right. Let's say you're going to LVO tomorrow. Let's go. You're going to LVO tomorrow. What kind of list would you take as demons? Like, walk us through what that archetype would be, or what would be the core of it.
The list I would take tomorrow would be my mono Nurgle build, which I'm guessing people have seen it already, which is the 4 Funeral Pain Grand Clean one, 2 other Great Unclean ones, Rodigus, 2 units of Plague Bears, 2 units of Plague Drones, a unit of 1x6 Nurglings, and 3 Nurgle Soul Grinders with the Claw.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain this. How does this list do anything? I'm
Uh,
curious.
So what I usually do is I have, let's just say if it's like a even tipping point or search and destroy, I have the 4 Feel No Pain Grand Clean one. Basically, he's going to make a beeline to the middle. Then I have the 3 Great Unclean ones, or sorry, the 3 Soul Grinders, usually behind a wall or close to the Grand Clean one for the 6 of Feel No Pain. I have the 2 Rodigus and 2 Great Unclean ones in the air, depending on if it's like the Tyranid Vanguard or World Eaters. Usually have like Rodigus in the back to help out. But then I
Mhm.
have the secret sauce for that list is actually the plague drones, because their ability is in the shooting phase. If you score a hit, anything anything Nurgle demon that shoots at it or fights at it till the end of my turn, I reroll wounds. So you
Oh, yeah.
actually can offset the poor strength that Great and Clean ones have by only being strength 8 and 6 attacks. So and
Yep.
on top of having lethal, so let's say you get 1 hit, 1 lethal, 3 hits, and you're like smacking even a rhino. At least you're winning it on 5s rollable.
Yeah.
So,
Straight up, I have like charged rhinos into great unclean ones. I have like like impulses, rhinos, nonsense. Hell, I've put like infiltrators into them before and not lost a unit. Like so, they do. They certainly do lack a little bit when it comes to close combat. How do the soul grinders work into this?
I like the indirect because so their attack is like D6 plus 1, lethal blast, strength 7, AP1, 2 damage. So if you really need to, like you can kit like if you have the infiltrators and try to block out your like the 12-inch deep strike, I usually shell them first to knock out one or
Yeah.
two of them, maybe even kill the squad if I'm lucky, because then it allows me to go in your backfield and you have to put like another real resource to stop me essentially.
Yeah. Yep, agreed. I kind of like how that works. That seems pretty cute, man. What other mono god builds do you see as viable?
Probably either tie for first or close second would be the mono corn build.
Yep.
What I usually do is it's 2 bloodthirsters, 1 Renmaster, 3x6 crushers because they're just
Yep.
awesome. 3
Yeah.
units of 5 hounds and 3 skull cannons.
Skull cannons. See when the edition first came out, I told everybody skull cannons were just good value. Like they're not amazing at anything, but they're just like a good value for the points model. You still find them to be holding up?
Oh yeah, like I don't use them for damage. I just use them to cause battle shocks. Like if I need
Yeah.
one thing dead, I usually shoot 2 or 3 of them at a unit just to even chip down a wound or 2 or a couple models. But if you're gonna take 3 battle shocks and I go neg 1, you're bound to fail one of those.
Yeah, and like uh, they're 95 points for toughness 9, 9 wounds, 4 up invulnerable save. Like that's a pretty good 95 points for that chassis. And they ain't nothing. Like they don't shoot good, they don't fight particularly good, but they're a bit of everything all the time. So I actually quite like them.
Yeah, they're really good at killing like 5. They're good at killing 5 space marines.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about crushes. Why are crushes I know why crushes are a thing, but tell the people why are crushes a thing and why they should probably be scared.
See, I like those because you're able to 6-inch deep strike with your bloodthirsters or even Bellacore, and then they have the musician that gives them +1 to charge. So in essence, you basically have 5-inch charges on demand,
Yeah.
and as long as one idiot makes combat, you roll you roll dice for every model in the unit on a 4 up to D3 mortal wounds. So on average, you're doing like what between 6 and 7 mortal wounds.
Yeah, you're usually rolling 3d3 mortal wounds on a target, which a lot of the time can just ice a lot of small units. Think Eldari, where it's just like 5 T3 wounds, hanging on with the hopes of a 5 up invulnerable saving, just like 3d3 mortal wounds. See you later, alligator. You're out of there. And they are toughness 7 with 4 wounds and 2 OC, and they're coming in at 110 for 3, 220
Yes,
for
sir.
6. So they're not breaking the bank.
Yeah, they're basically on the same level as like a Death Shroud right now, which is bonkers. They went down in points to begin with.
Yeah, man, it's buck wild to me that they're toughness 7. It's just a dude. It's just a dude on the back of it he's got 0 armor. He's just fleshy, whatever. T7, baby, T7.
Yeah.
Like the finest, the finest armor of the Imperium on Custodes. T6. See ya. Never heard of ya. Auric, nothing. Demonic toughness.
And they're 4 Binvil too, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Even nice to be able to take a punch as well.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think so Zinch and Slanesh, are they mono builds anywhere?
Slanesh, you can basically go back to 8th edition keeper spam, but since the keepers are more expensive than they were, you can't have the extra stuff. Like you can't have like the 4 keepers and 15 fiends running around on top of demonettes. You just basically having like 1 or 2 units of like 3-man or 1 6-man fiends and like demonettes holding the back. But 3 keepers in Shalaxi can't kill do everything essentially.
Yeah, and I am pretty high on fiends, but I'm not super high on keepers at the moment. I don't think they're bad units, but they're not as good as I would want them to be. Mostly because they just can't go through walls. That's pretty much it. They can't go through walls. If they could go through walls, they'd be absolutely amazing. But yeah, fiends are one that I've been really watching at the moment. I'm quite impressed with fiends.
Yeah, my friend on True Demon Ruler Franco, he's really high on fiends as well because they moved, I can't remember, 12 or 14. They got like 4 attacks each, strength 5, AP2, 2 damage, and if you pair that with the mask, they're really good.
Yeah, I do rate the mask. Yeah, they come in at 105 or 210, and yeah, toughness 5 up invuln, 4 wounds. I mean, it's only it's only 5 points more expensive to get 3 crushes over 3 fiends, which is kind of ridiculous to think that they get 2 more toughness, a better invulnerable save, and arguably better in combat versus a bunch of different things. But I mean, fiends have like 5 attacks at 5/2/2 with dev wounds. They ain't nothing.
They also go
Ain't
through
nothing at
walls,
all.
so that's
Exactly
worth it.
right. Exactly right. If you can deploy them on the table, the fiends are infinitely better than the crushes. But the crushes only work because you get to pretty much drop pod them in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also with the advance and charge. So as long as if you do the keeper shellax, you just stand them even just behind them within 6 inches, or just toe it in, you'll still be able to advance and charge. So
Mm.
they're rocketing up the board, especially on like search and destroy deployment.
What's your takes on demons in teams?
In teams, I would say I agree with the Art of War stance where you need to go like the the heavy style. Like you want to do like a specific build. You don't want to do like a bunch of little stuff. You want to go the big monster route, just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just to stat check people.
Push a skew.
Mhm.
But do you think so? You're thinking they're a upper B tier faction with a potential to go into A tier in the right player, right build? Do you think teams is higher or lower than that upper B?
I think the only problem is I feel with teams is a lot of other armies want to take basically Nurglings. So like if you have your CSM or Death Guard, they need,
Mm,
especially Death Guard, they need their Nurglings to work. So that just it sucks that you can't do that. But I mean that's just how WTC does it. So can't complain too
yeah,
much.
yeah, fair. All right. So if you were going to a big teams event, what do you think you would take?
I would either take my mono corn or mono Nurgle build. The one I
Oh,
just
you still go mono. Awesome.
yes, because that's definitely the niche you want to fill. Is like okay, I'm gonna like if you need like a immovable wall, I definitely do the Nurgle build, or you need a attack dog for your 1 or 2 attackers on like I guess like the first drop the first 2 drops. Definitely the
Yep.
mono corn.
Yep, I can see how that would work pretty well. Do you have a fringe build that you really want to play and you're hoping to be able to play one day?
Uh, I really wanted to go. I want to make Mono Zinch work, but I've tried multiple different builds for it. It just doesn't hit hard. Like besides like
Correct.
yeah, besides like your Everstave casino chicken, what people call it. But
Yep.
that's about it. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
It doesn't throw enough. It cover an armor contempt. Just wreck that chicken. Yeah, and the fact that there's so much armor contempt in the game, like Chaos Space Marines all have access to it, Sisters have access to it, all the Space Marines have access to it, and I find it just doesn't throw enough AP. Like every part of the profile of those weapons is good except for the AP. It's throwing AP1 or AP2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's AP2. I mean, then you have to spend what is it, 115 points on a chariot of
Yeah.
Zinj or a burning chariot. So yeah, that's so you just keep adding to the cost of that model just to make it work.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, and it doesn't kill tanks. Like if you got toughness 10, whoop-de-doo, like your Lord of Change is in trouble.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's my
you're shooting at strength 12. So I mean, you'll kill a rhino, but you're not killing like a land raider or a Roldorn.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I forgot about the extra strength. You're talking about the when you have the enhancement, right?
Yeah. I thought
Yeah,
I
of
said the
course.
Everstave chicken, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I
Um,
do agree with that. But yeah, I just wish the Lord of Change shot a bit harder. I also wish the Great Unclean one hit a little harder, and I wish the man. See, the data sheet I like the most is actually the Keeper of Secrets. Is the data sheet I like the most, with the exception of how the game is played. Like when you look at just the Keeper of Secrets, you're like, this is pretty much good at every level. And then you look at how the actual mechanics of playing the game. You're like, this guy is the least functional, and it's a bit of a shame. Bit of a shame. All right, my dude. So you put them as a upper B tier faction. What do you
yeah.
see as their biggest predators? Like, what are the biggest brick walls in your way? Should you go to like a 6-round event?
Let's see, 6-round event. So far the only brick wall I've hit. So I did 2 GTs back to back. I went to Rumble on the River and Gem City. Rumble was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Gem City was in Dayton, Ohio. The
Yep.
one list I lost to was Wesley St. Hines, like oops all infantry guard list. That was
Yeah.
rough.
Yep.
But
I think
I kept him from 100.
nice, good job. Yeah, so he's playing the is it the 2 or 3 units of 20 death core and the 2 or 3 units of 20 infantry, all with like characters and invulns and regenerating and stuff like that. Yeah.
So he had, I think, I don't know if I want to go through it. He had the 30 Aquilons, he had the 2x20 Kriegsmen, and then he had 3 units of 10 Scions with the command squads attached.
Oh, yeah.
So it's basically here's your immovable wall of stuff, and then turn 2. Oh look, here's 60
it's raining
in your ass.
It's raining men from turn 2 through turn 3. Then they regen. I'm going to 2 CP, bring back a unit. Turn 4 2. Yeah, yeah. It's a cool build. I actually really want to play that list.
Yeah.
But anyway, mate, that's going to wrap us up for this first segment. Thank you very much for coming on and giving us your expertise. We're going to go over and record another segment with this lovely Big Lenny over here, and I'm going to ask him some more questions. We're going to do a little bit of wish listing, talking about what possibly demons could need, designing a brand new detachment for them should they get one, and talking about some of the rumors that are mulling around about the possible future of our denizens of the warp. But my dude, thank you again for coming on. Any parting messages you'd like to give out to the demon stand out there?
Keep fighting the good fight. Don't worry. Even if we do go away as a faction, we'll still be rocking it with the other God-specific legions. You can still play there if you want.
You will have your own sandbox. It'll be attached to. It'll be a sandbox within someone else's sandbox, but a sandbox nonetheless. All right, mate. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in part 2.
All right. Thank you.
And we are back for our final segment of episode 219. I am joined by the current #1 Death Guard player in the world. You might know him as Aiden Smolly, but I call him Smelly Aiden because he plays Death Guard, and it's funny. Okay, it's funny. I promise.
I'll take it. That's fine. You got to embrace the rot, haven't you? You got to embrace the stinky if you're playing Death Guard.
Just full faction immersion is the only way to achieve success in 40k. Don't worry about the, I may be affiliated with some, companies that provide coaching and blah, blah, blah. Nah, full faction immersion. If you're not in cosplay, you just can't win a GT.
Yeah, like when people are doing like the checklists and like, make sure you brought your deodorant to stuff. No, as Death Guard player, you don't do that. You don't bring any deodorant. You don't shower the night before. You got to commit. You got to fully commit.
Yeah, you go for a half marathon the day before. You sleep in the same clothes. You get up in the morning. You finish off the other half the marathon. Well, I'm assuming Death Guard players will be lumbering along. Much more plodding and methodical.
Oh yeah, it takes a while.
And then you rock up at the event, and you're just like, my aura of contagion is enough to defeat you. And
you got to make sure you take your shoes off. Take your shoes off at the table as well. And put them on the table. Put the shoes on the table as well.
Yes, mate. Yes. I mean,
right next to their reserves.
You know what you do? You get white socks, and you put your you do you know how you have the red sticks with the measuring.
Oh yeah.
You measure your foot exactly and write a ruler on your sock, on your sweaty half marathon sock, and you use that to measure your distances. And you hold,
Hell yeah.
It's the 7-inch charge. Well, my foot's 7.5, so yeah, I guess I'm in. Yeah.
And you hold it to your point. Like, can you just measure it for me?
You pass it to them. Can you see if I'm in range, mate?
Yeah, can you just hold that in for us?
We could literally go on for hours along this trajectory, but we have some things to discuss, my mate. So, Death Guard, actually a faction I'm extremely excited about in the current meta, and I'm interested to hear your hot takes post MFM and rules changes.
Yeah, I mean, those MFM changes were. When I was sat here and I was talking to people, I'm like, okay, Death Guard and this MFM. I'm honestly expecting no real changes. I think most of our changes will come from other factions being, toned down, because I think we're in an all right position. And then GW comes in and like, hey, Marty, 25 points off, 300-point Primarch. Oh, Death Shroud, cut them down 10 points every 3. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, man. Feels good, right?
Oh yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a different question of should a Primarch ever be getting to a point where he's 300 points. But having like two of your most iconic units, because like people when you ask people why did you get into Death Guard, a lot of people say, oh, it's the guys with the size, because Death Shroud look cool as hell. So to see like your two most iconic and coolest looking units come down in points, and they're actually like pretty decent units anyway, it kind of gets to a point where you're looking at these and going, I was running 6 before. What's 18?
Dude, 18 is very doable now. In fact, I've seen some kicking about that. I'm like, that's legit. That is legit 18 Death Shroud. And there's some meta armies at the moment that are on the rise, Tyranids GSC in particular. That list just terrifies.
Yeah, like some lists just can't deal with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going a bit of a skew list with it, but that's the problem though. When if you were to say to someone, okay, I've got 3 full squads of Terminators and a Primarch, all going on durability, and like, okay, so then what? You've got like some cultists or something around that, and you're like, no, that's only 960 points.
Yep.
It's like,
nice.
wait, what?
Yeah,
it's less than half.
So, literally, do you see Death Guard as one of the biggest beneficiaries of the changes? Like, even if they didn't get any changes, did you still think Death Guard would have been in a pretty good place coming out of this?
I mean, I think Death Guard would have been in a pretty decent place without any particular changes. I'd like to see some things like change, some of the less taken units, which is, fair enough. But I mean, the biggest problem I always thought for Death Guard was the fact that T-Sons, especially, like Death Guard's nightmare. We don't like them. Sisters were obviously really good as well, and like those two armies were, I think, sort of like holding the fist a bit down on the Death Guard power a little bit. And then when they got nerfed, because I was reading Alphabetical Order and Adeptus Sororitas was at the top, and I saw a big page full of red, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then obviously I saw Thousand Suns all red. I was like, oh, that's nice. And then to see a little bit of green on mine, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Bonus money. Yeah.
So I think it's like not just the fact that our biggest like predators got like a bit of a slap on the wrist, but then to us to also get some extra points put in there. And we're already, when I build a Death Guard list and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh, I hope I've got enough stuff. And I'll come across, I played Dark Angels the other day, and he had like 3 Deathwing Knights and like some, say, 2 Redemptor, 2 Ballistas. I'm like, that was 2K. I'm like, what? And I was sat there with like 3 squads of Death Shroud, Mortarion, 3 Predators, 2 Bloat Drones, 3 squads of Cultists, 20 Box Swarms. Like, this is disgusting.
Yeah, it feels good though. It feels good. Like I played against Death Guard a little while ago, even before the changes, and I was like, yeah, because I was playing Marines. I'm like, you just have like 3 more units, 3 more like actual units, not throwaway units like cultists and nonsense. You're like 3 more actual units than I do. And yeah, sure, I was playing 15 Deathwing Knights, so my units are better than yours. But knowing now the Deathwing Knights were going to happen to them, and a bunch of the other things that Death Guard legitimately struggled into, yeah, I'm very, very happy with where they're at the moment. In saying that, like, what were you hoping change? Because I don't think any of us were like Death Shroud.
No, it was my money was if my money was on anything, Death Shroud weren't up there. Death Shroud and Morty were not on my cards for anything coming down. I thought they were at a pretty good point. Morty can't get any cheaper. That was again my thoughts. So in my head, I was like, maybe it's just going to be like Blight Haulers, maybe go to like 85s, like 5 points here or there. Just I wanted to see maybe the Plague Marine characters just come back down to where they were before they went up. Which one of them did, to be fair. One of them went back down to 50 from 60. The other Fight First guy's still at 60, but I can live with that. Fight First is quite a powerful rule, obviously.
Yeah.
Plague Burst Crawlers, honestly, I wanted to see them come down because of the indirect nerf. A lot of indirect units had the points come down. They're still sat at 180, which is, and you got to bear in mind, like, when I'm looking at a Plague Burst Crawler for indirect, I'm like comparing it to like Exorcists and stuff now, and strength 8 AP 1/2 damage is not an Exorcist.
No. But you get other guns, mate. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just
the argument.
I'm just of the opinion. I'm just of the opinion every sister's unit should pay the Miracle Dice tax. There should just be like a 15% Miracle Dice tax on every unit, just across the board. But chuck them all up. But of course, that's going to piss off a lot of people.
I definitely do not share the same opinion of this guy.
All right. So, hot takes: is Death Guard in a much better position?
Yeah, I think we are in a pretty strong. I don't think we are top armies in the game, but we are up there, and I think you have capacity to punch as well. I don't think we are the mid-tier army because Death Guard's always even traditionally been. D for Death Guard was the meme for a long time. And then we came like this B tier, like, you know what, Death Guard, you can't ignore them anymore. They're pretty solid. No, Death Guard are okay. And then we had a little bit in the sun where it's like B plus A. And I think we might be back in the B plus A tier potentially. So I'm super excited because I never want to be S tier. And I don't think Death Guard ever will be. It's just too slow to ever be S tier. But
yeah, the whole concept of fast gun good, it's just not a thing you're able to tangibly access.
Yeah, like assault just doesn't exist anywhere, and one character has it on a grenade, and that's like it. But,
which is weird because it used to be their shtick for a while.
Yeah.
That was their shtick.
Yeah,
like we are slow, but
we're always shooting and we're always doing our thing.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. We're always going to do our stuff. All right, jumping into what do they have going for them? So you're talking about them being good. What are they doing that is good?
So again, as we said, the points to put the amount of like toughness 6, 3 wound, 4 up invulnerable, 2 up save infantry on the table, which has great melee. 4 attacks per guy, strength 8, AP 2 damage. You can lean super hard into durability skew because you can go with a -1 weapon skill, ballistic skill, contagion. You can get an extra durability boost from means like Nurglings for an extra -1 to hit in close combat to stack that. So now you're -2 to hit them. You bring a Death Guard Sorcerer along. Now the squad's on the 2 up is -1 damage as well as -2 to be hit and -1 to be wounded. And if you're a melee army against that, I've genuinely seen someone like last weekend get paired into the 18 Death Shroud. They were playing World Eaters and they were just like, yeah, I'm just going to shake your hand. It's just like, what do you do against that much durability? So I think, I mean, especially if you're a melee army, I think if you run into like Death Shroud spam, you're in for a really, really rough game. Just because, again, if I put out a full squad and you kill it, and that squad's going to take a lot of firepower to kill, I've lost 300 points tops.
Yeah.
It's just not a big. On top of that, you've got things like 90-point demon engines that have 5 invulnerables, and that 5 invulnerable suddenly, it's 8/2 multi-metals that it shouldn't have 8, that it should have died to them, and now it's passed both its invulns, it's spiked them, and now you've got to deal with that thing. But the Death Shroud have exposed themselves, and there's all this stuff coming out. Oh God, there's Mortarion, and you can put so much stuff in people's faces that all of it. There's not a unit that you kill and the army breaks. Like there's a lot of armies that have like a core, like let's think like a Valgon unit. Like when that unit goes down, it's a big investment. That's a lot of points and a lot of the output gone. But in Death Guard, there's not like everything's just cheap and replaceable. And don't get me wrong, it's great if you can kill 6 Death Shroud a character, brilliant. Kill Mortarion, brilliant. But there's always another thing.
So redundancy is just the thing that they have, which is very on curve, on brand.
Yeah, I think redundancy is really good. The amount of points you take for that redundancy in order like firepower you can absorb. And also your units, like especially the Death Shroud themselves, normally when you get elite units like that, you can try and like bog them down. But again, they've got 8d6 flamers in the squad. Yeah. Like you can't even, and the pistols as well, so they can shoot in combat. So you can't even stop that. It's almost like, it literally is that inexorable, like, yeah, okay, it moves 4 inches, don't get me wrong, but you can always advance. But it is this, if you can't deal with this wall when it comes down, because if they do a turn where they're like, okay, expose both Death Shroud, a rapid ingress to the other Death Shroud squad, Mortarion's coming forward, and this bloat drone's coming out this turn, like, that is a massive wall of death, and you are not killing all of that. And then the next turn, or like, it's going to start crashing into stuff. And at that point, that's when Contagion's kicking in. So now it's even harder to kill what remains, because all your stuff's -1 to hit, or -2 at times when they want to be. And I think it can just, it's one of those where if an opponent messes up on a commitment or undercommits and then suddenly doesn't kill it, because again, you have all this ability to like make stuff -2 and stuff, things can snowball quite quickly out of hand. And also, let's not forget, if you're against matchups where the -1 to hit doesn't matter, Death Guard's within 12 inches damage output is actual insanity. Like -1 save contagion and -1 toughness is, especially players Marines who don't bring like, because weirdly, a lot of Marines don't actually have invulns outside like specific units.
Correct.
And if you've ever had a game where you've like connected to like someone's brought like maybe like a like Gravis, lots of Gravis instead of like they've only like one's got a Blade Guard, lots of Gravis, lots of jump intercessors, even Sandguard back in the day when it was no invuln, just 2 up, and you connected with the -1 save. Oh, it was horrific. You could kill so much stuff. I had 3 Death Shroud and a Lord of Contagion kill an entire 10-man squad of Death Company plus Chaplain on their own. Just because it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to make them AP4, and each one's hitting on 2s, re-rolling, and killing on 2s at the end.
Very nice. Yeah. Love it. In saying that, what are the downsides?
Well, we've already said it. It is still speed. It's always going to be speed. And there is a new one as well, which is with the big lean people are doing to Death Shroud at the moment. OC is low.
Yes. Yep. And I got to say, quite susceptible to mortal wounds.
Yes, yeah. Dev wounds, mortal wounds, anything like that. Also, another reason why you kind of have to bring Mortarion is, have you ever played Death Shroud against a Basilisk or anything like that?
Yep.
2-inch move Terminators. Yeah, it literally is like, yep, good game, cool. I can't even, my base is like just over 2 mils thick. I can't get through the wall unless I advance.
I have played that game, and I had triple Basilisk. That was hey, it was the style at the time, like an onion on your belt. And yeah, essentially the only thing he could do was deploy all his rhinos, put every Terminator in reserve, all the rhinos on the line, hope he went first and made it to the middle of the board. And he did. He made it to the middle of the board. Did not get any further. But yes, it's a real problem. Like all the minuses to all those minuses are horrific. In addition to that, there's actually surprisingly a little bit of it around now. Votan are doing quite a lot everywhere and starting to bring berserkers in a lot in big strength. Is fight on death something you fear? Because of course you have fight first kind of on demand. Is fight on death the natural counter to that?
Fight on death is obviously quite nasty. Like that used to be the way people used to deal with like my 10 fight first Plague Marines, because they just run like 5 death company into it, fight on death, and then they trade, and it's not a good trade. The fight on death is an issue. It's not so much an issue with like berserks, because they hit on 4s or down to 3s or trojans, and you can put that back up to 5s.
And only 4 of them, and they only hit on 4 pluses. So if it's a 10-man, you wipe it. 5 of them are going to hit, maybe hitting on 5s. It's a bit yikes.
You can -1 damage it because your sorcerer is not a stratagem, so it's just a 2-up at the start of the phase. So you actually get a chance to use it. So don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be happy to get smacked by that. But you do bring a good point, which is one of the bigger weaknesses as well right now is a lot of people are bringing damage 3 at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Castigators are still damage 3. Like even in my own army, I've got triple predator. That's all damage 3. A lot of Tau stuff like Riptides damage 4, Ghost Kills damage 3. There's a lot of guns in the game that your 4-up invulnerable is. You kind of feel a bit like Custodes sometimes, where it's like one turn I spike all these 4-ups and it's great, and then the next time I failed every single one, I've just lost my 6 Death Shroud out of nowhere.
Living on that Custodes edge, right?
It genuinely feels like it.
Exactly right. In some extent, like the going all in on the Death Shroud, it feels like you're playing a weird Custodes army with better rules, arguably.
Yeah, like don't worry, I'm not going to say like we're Custodes. Like I think if 6 Death Shroud fought 5 Shield Guard, I think the Death Shroud like just win that one, because again
they do.
With -1 damage, -1 to wound, -1 to be hit, all that stuff. Custodes just die. But it is scary to think like a single, let's say like a single, even a predator or a castigator. Let's say a single castigator, a battle cannon. They've tagged you with they've tagged you with something. We're going to a castigator to increase the AP. It's AP2, so you're on your invuln. And every single one of those dice you fail is straight up a dead dude. And you've only got 6 dudes in the squad, so you've got to be really careful as damage through weapons.
Fair enough, and great points, mate. All right. Let's say, so you are going to tournament this coming weekend, but let's say that tournament was the LGT. In the current meta right now, describe to us what you think the best kinds of builds are for such an event.
So you do have, the obvious one is probably like, you could take the 18 Death Shroud Morty, and then, like this weekend I'm taking that, I'm taking actually 15 Death Shroud. I'm going 663. Because I just wanted a bit more extra scoring. Because weirdly, even though Prynex has been out for a bit, a lot of the game seems to be going quite MSU heavy. People tend to have like 1, maybe 2 like bomb unit, and then there's a lot of hull spam as well, but that's its own archetype. But a lot of infantry stuff, because it kind of just dies regardless if it's a 10-man or a 5-man. You see a lot of people going for like the 5-mans and just being able to score well. So I've dropped 3 of my Death Shroud. One, it's easier to ingress the 3-man as well, just to get it somewhere nice if you want it. But basically just to chuck a lot more scoring, so I like traded that out. I got 2 bloat drones in there as well. So I got 3 squads of cultists, 3 predators, the Death Shroud, Mortarion, got some other scoring. You got some Nurglings in there. I actually like Poxwalkers weirdly at the moment. I know it sounds really weird, but just one squad of 20, because you're in a game where like 3-inch deep strike, especially at the moment, because
Yes.
Akalon's is incredibly annoying. So 10 cultists in your home objective isn't going to cut it, because they're going to drop down the first unit, kill a bunch of them, second unit's going to jump on, kill the rest, and steal the objective. 20 Poxwalkers, however, not only are they tougher to kill, toughness 4, and they have a 5-pin vulnerable, and if you really want to, you can go to ground. But in the 20-man unit, you can spread it out a lot more, so that the first initial 3-inch deep strike is nowhere near the objective.
Correct.
And then when they kill it, you just take the outer layer away, and then the second squad is still nowhere near. So they have to like commit all 3 squads to even have a chance at touching the objective. So it's nice protection against that. And there's also a lot of other builds that are potentially going quite against Blood Angels. I keep practicing against Blood Angels for some reason. And I just put 100 points, so 20 Poxwalkers on the middle objective. All he had is 2 Ballista Dreadnoughts and he's shooting. I'm like, cool, go and pick that up with something. And it just poses a question where it's like, you haven't teched for killing 20 things with a 5-up feel no pain and an invul on demand if I want to go to ground.
Yes. I 100% am on board with that. I think the slapback effect of most of the toxic hordes being dealt with, the Crusader spam, the ACDC units, and the rest, is that people, and then the pivot, the sisters and guard coming into the meta with all their tanks, high toughness, lots of chassis, is that I think there's actually a hole for like 1 or 2 horde-ish units. Like I'm planning to bring 20 Kriegsmen, maybe 2x20 Kriegsmen in a lot of my lists moving forward for guard, because I just think they are gonna go and score me so many freaking points and pose really interesting questions. And you're going to be doing that whilst possibly having triple predators as well. So one of these things is going to add value, right?
Yeah, because the thing is, like, again, as you said there, a lot of people are attacking to kill tanks. So it's like, do you think I care if you put in multi-melters into Poxwalkers? I do not care.
It's a freaking win. A win and a half, mate.
And if you want to expose like castigators to shoot that squad, like cool, I will then retaliate with predators. I'll get the first shot off. So I'm happy with that. And the good thing as well is because I've got Typhus in the list. Typhus just becomes a flexi choice, because if I come across Yuri Kriegsman, I can put him in that squad. That squad can then charge into your Kriegsman. And then they'll be there all day. I'll be regenerating Poxwalkers. You'll kill a few. I'll kill a few. I regenerate. You don't. And it kind of they kind of hold each other up. They can play that grindy game.
Well, hold right there, mate. I do get D3 Kriegsman's back, but yeah.
Oh, we'll be there all day. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, all freaking day. Nothing of consequence shall occur.
I forget
it depends. Well, freaking Morty can scythe through the unit pretty. Sorry, not Morty. Typhus can scythe through the unit pretty damn quick.
Yeah, he's not too bad. And everything he kills as well regenerates Poxwalker. So if you run into anything like trying to do the same sort of thing, you can flex him into the squad. But if you don't, you can either go solo and just deep strike, do mortals, because you can action mortal wounds, so he's a good action for that. Or if you're against a melee matchup, you put him in one of the Death Shroud squads, so that squad's now permanently, you take the mass weapon skill, Blizzard Contagion, that squad is now permanently -2 to be hit by all melee units. So
correct.
Having that 20 Poxwalkers there just gives you that flex with Typhus to be like, are you going solo today? Are you going with a big squad of Terminators, or can we do some Poxwalker shenanigans? And like worst case scenario, it's a big unit that can sit on home, and it's only 100 points. It's not like people put infiltrators back there for more points.
Yeah. All right. If you were going to keep describing your list if you want.
So I mean that was majority of it. So I've got Mortarion, Typhus. I've got 2 Death Guard Terminator Sorcerers for the -1 damages. So they usually go in the big 6-mans, just in the melee matchups. But again, if you don't really care about the -1 damage, you can split them off solo. They can drop in. They have a once per game casino cannon. Or you could just, it's a 40mm base for some weird reason, so they can just deep strike and do an action. I don't really care. 70-point character, be flexible with stuff. Like I said, Typhus, that I've got a lot of contagion, because that's in case he gives the squad 4 rolls to hit, so you can fish for lethal hits. That's just there again to flex in. If he goes in the 3-man squad, he brings enough damage himself, because he's got 6 attacks with Deadly Pathogen at flat damage 3 at strength 9, AP 3 or 4, depending on what you want it to be, which is really nice. But he also, if you run into a matchup where someone's got a Canis Rex or a Tesseract Vault, you can put him in the big 6-man. That can be a big rapid ingress if it connects. You've reroll all the hit rolls, just fish for lethal hits, and just put as many wounds onto it. And that's kind of your answers to the big tough things. So they're all my characters. Then I got the cultist squads. So just again, cheap, runs around, has scout, can do actions, holds a bit of primary when the game's going a bit longer on. A worst case scenario, you get area down turn 1, I can just put them out there. Okay, I'm going to lose them, but oh well. 5 points is 5 points. Then backed up Electrical Predator with the last cannon sponsons just to make sure I don't get into a position where my opponent can literally just sit in the open with castigators and nothing can challenge it. They're just really points efficient. 100 again, it's just looking at the points efficiency of Death Guard, just being like, that's cheap, it's got pretty decent guns, cool, that'll do, get in the list. And then 2 bloat drones just for anything that wants to be moving, because you need some speed in the list, and that's the fastest thing I got. And again, same sort of deal. They can just run around, do actions. They've still got the nasty 2-up anti-infantry flamers, so they can harass stuff like scouts easily. And the 5-up invulnerable, if someone exposes and undercommits, maybe they put out just an immolator to shoot it. Suddenly you spike the invuls, and that immolator then gets picked up by a predator. You've just lost a unit for free. Whereas if that was a predator, it doesn't get a save, because AP4. So having the weird invuln there can just make people either overcommit to killing it, in which case you can punish, or undercommit, in which case then it goes away and floats away and flames off your little 5-man unit.
Exactly right. And in addition, it's your activator for your contagions, usually for your -1 state and stuff. Floats around, giving that out for you. I think the bloat drones are really necessary. So if you would go to a large teams event, what would your list look like then?
So teams is a weird one. It kind of depends what people want you to do. Obviously, you could just be the, hey, put me into any melee matchup and I will ruin that guy's day. But
correct.
You are obviously then banking on getting a good pairing, which is not impossible to do if you have a good captain that can do pairings. Good.
And
go on.
And then they end up pairing you poorly. You play against Tau, and you're like sitting there on 2 objectives, hoping you don't get 20'd.
Yeah, and that's obviously the risk. So you actually see quite a few people still run a more mechanized skew for teams with like lots of plague burst crawlers. So you still take triple plague burst crawl because they have the ability to basically just say, I have been given the good matchup where I've got flamers or plague burst crawlers, I've got 3 predators, I've got 3 bloat drones, Mortarian, and some Death Shroud. I'm just going to push into them. They can't deal with all the skew. The flamers are killing all the infantry. I'm just tough and hard to kill. Cool, we run them over. You get the bad matchup, and you go, okay, that's fine. PBCs hide behind walls. We can mortar some stuff off when we get no prisoners and things like that. Predators can hide, and I'll just play this out really slow and drag it to like a 3-point loss maybe, or like maybe a draw if I get lucky. Which is quite nice, to be honest, because so it depends on your role. If people want you to either be trying to push for big wins, or if they just want you to be somewhat blunt scores.
So let's just say you had the chance to completely define your role, and the rest of the team theoretically would fall in line around you. What do you think is the best possible thing Death Guard could do for a team's lineup?
Me personally, I'm a defensive player, so I'd be the blunt guy who's just there to like take people to draws. So I'm looking at the triple plague burst crawlers. 1 squad of fights first play means just to sit on my natural objective and be like, yep, this is hard for you to take off me. And then it's just bloat drones, cultists, predators, and Amoi. Just stuff around it that can be like, send out 1 bloat drone a turn, scores some secondaries, dies, who cares? Mortars are chipping away at stuff, and if you come close to me, you can punish it because you've still got like a squad of like big plague marines, you've got all the shooting. So that's my kind of thing where it's like, it's more mechanized. I think VSL actually ran it a while ago, and the French Pumba, I think he's called, has been rocking the same list in teams, and he said the exact same thing. Basically, he's just there to either, if he gets that good matchup where he can just, no one can deal with his arm and you run over him, he will take it. But he's more just there as, I don't have a bad matchup. He's trying to just get as many neutrals on the matrix as possible, and that's the way I play, because I'm naturally a more defensive than aggressive player. Aggression for me is quite strange. I've been trying to do it, and it's a strange feeling, especially when you got a hated aggression. It's like I have to be aggressive and in someone's face. Whereas before that, I'm just like, I will mortar you to death from behind this wall.
Yes. Yeah. Competitive play style. Where are you at with allies for Death Guard? So, notably the Nurgle Demons. I was talking with a couple of other Chaos players, and they're pretty damn high on the Nurgle Demons allies at the moment, and or, in your case, Chaos Knights.
Yeah, so Demons are great. Nurglings obviously give us infiltrate, something we don't have. Stops people getting turn 1 terraforms with scouts and stuff where you don't want it, which is nice. They also have, the contagion, their own little aura that benefits contagion. So Nurglings are great against 40 points, so happy with that. Rotigus is a real genuine consideration. You bring Rotigus and you bring Morty, and it's like just over 500 points for them too, which is wild. 2 big toughness 12 monsters. They've got the 4-up invulnerable each, so they can spike really hard. Rotigus actually helps out a lot of the OC issues because he halves OC as well. So that could be actually quite nice. It means you won't get 10 guards and take a point off 6 Death Shroud. Why they're not dead to the Overwatch is a different question, but we'll just ignore that. Maybe you need it for something else. So he's actually really good on that one. So quite high on him. Beast and Nurgle as well. If you're going this slow, ploddy, Death Shroud, quite heavy list, Beast and Nurgle, it can deep strike naturally, 65 points, can drop in, it's got OC so it can do actions. You're not going to find much better out there for just dropping someone somewhere and just being like, yep, he's scoring me that secondary this turn. And also he's annoying to kill because if you don't kill him in one phase, he just heals to full. So it's not like someone can just over a few turns shoot me some bolters and he'll die. He's T9 as well, which is kind of funny. So sometimes you can draw some firepower. Also punishes people who leave the smallest gap in the home because it's like, Beast and Nurgle. Yep. So yeah, I'm pretty high on them. Plague Bearers, though, I think they can be okay. I just don't think we have durable infantry. They're the same points now as 3 Death Shroud. It's it's a hard sell.
Yeah, it is a hard sell.
But in terms of Chaos Knights, I still think they're brill. You can run Chaos Knights happily. Brigands, they have the crazy, bonus AP and then on top of -1 save contagion. So AP 6 Melter always makes me laugh when I tell the Marine player his Land Raider's dead. He's
I'm going to Land Raider, bro. It's in cover with AOC.
Cool. You got 6s.
I'll allow you to try and roll a 6 for me.
Yeah. Normally they go, I just won't spend the CP. You take that back. Which is quite fun. But
into our closing questions. I think you've already answered this first one. You see them as a B+ low A tier army competitively?
I'm probably underselling it. We always like to do that with our own armies, don't we? I will put them in A-. I won't say B. I'll put them in A-.
I agree.
I don't want to. Everyone likes to say my army's not as strong as people think it is, but no.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, actually, it's pretty damn good.
I'd say it's around the bottom of A tier. Yeah, definitely agree. Absolutely able to win most events. There's just some matchups that I feel like they do what Death Guard do a little bit better, which I think results in Death Guard players wanting to skew a bit more, especially with Death Shroud being the number one go-to. Do you have them in the same ranking in teams?
In teams, I actually think they're one of I'd actually put them solid A, in teams. Because again, they have matchups that they can absolutely stomp completely. It's not even funny. But you can also play neutral into a lot of matchups. You're especially with the nerf to T-Suns. Like I said, that was the biggest thing. I was like, oh great, I got T-Suns. Time to get 20-0 unless they mess up massively. Yeah. But now with them being taken out quite a bit because they are not in a good spot right now. They're not having a good time according to stats anyway. I'm not particularly. I used to go to events last data slate. I'd be like, oh, I hope I don't face mainly for me, it's Hypercrypts and T-Suns. Still don't like Hypercrypt particularly, but if my captain can just dodge that one matchup, I'll fight anything. I'll take it all on. So, and if you can say that as an army, you're probably in a pretty good spot for teams.
Yeah, 100%. All right. On that note, we will wrap up this first part of this recording. We're going to go over and record part 2. Hopefully you will join us there. This is the end, and this is the totality, the finality of 2 weeks' work for myself doing this State of the Super Faction for Chaos. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. I am currently, as you're listening to this, hanging out in Atlanta at the World Championships of Warhammer. Hopefully you guys will check out the coverage there over on the Warhammer YouTube and Twitch page.
Also, good luck, Quinton, from Out of War, because he's playing Death Guard, I think. So good luck to him.
I think, yes, I've heard such things. Come by and give me a high five if you hear this and just come say good day. Would love to meet you. But dude, anything, I didn't give you a chance to plug your wares. Please tell people about the Disgustingly Resilient podcast.
Thank you. I run the Disgustingly Resilient podcast on YouTube. It's a channel all about competitive Death Guard. So we do tactics videos, we do list reviews, all kind of things like that. So if you are at all intrigued or have piqued your interest with Death Guard at this one, check us out. And, if you like it, hopefully I'll see you there. That's about it, really. I just love Death Guard.
Mate, I'm somewhat Death Guard curious. I can't be bothered starting a new army, but if I had it on the shelf, I would really feel like playing it at the moment. So hopefully many people out there do too. But yeah, dude, thank you very much for coming on. You've absolutely wealth of knowledge. I adore your enthusiasm. I love having people on, and you just feel the life in them when they talk about their faction. It really brings me a lot of joy. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. So take care, look out for each other, and hopefully see you at WC Dub. Thank you very much again, Aiden.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Smelly, smelly boy.
I know you spent the last 40 years trying to figure out who you are. Left wondering. every time you leave the door. Hey, open for somebody to interject, to take control.